The S&P 500 crushes 9 out of 10 investors. Why is that? What are the big mistakes that most people make? That's what we're going to cover in this video right here. On top of that, I'm going to show you exactly how to go into the 10% bucket of being an investor that does beat the market in the long term. And to take it even one level higher on top of that, if you were to challenge me and say, "Hey Brandon, you are forced to beat the S&P 500 in a 10-year period, what would you do and how would you do it? And do you think that you could even do it?" The answer is yes, and I'm going to show you the exact 3 trades that I would make right now to beat the S&P 500 in the next 10 years. I'm not even messing with you guys. This video is going to blow your mind. I wish I could have watched this 10 years ago when I got started out. All right, the first thing we have to do is look at this chart right here. This shows you the 20-year annualized returns by asset class from 1996 to 2015. You can see all the way down here on the bottom right. It doesn't look good for the average investor, the retail investor that has a day job that just simply thinks they're making good trades and they're making all these trades every single month, but they're really doing nothing good. They average 2.1% in this roughly 20-year period right here versus the S&P, that's the market, 8.2% per year in this 20-year period. Why do the average investors just screw it up so bad? Why are they underperforming by so much? Like, really think about this. Inflation in this time frame was 2.2%. They did 2.1% and are probably having to realize taxes on the gains that they made. So they are essentially paying money to not even beat inflation. They are basically losing purchasing power every single year. If you would have just simply bought a house, you probably would have did better. If you bought gold or bonds or the typical 40-60 or 60-40 portfolio, you would have done better than the average retail investor by simply making one single purchase and just forgetting about it. The S&P, obviously 8.2%. You could have done 8.2% for doing nothing in a 20-year time period. On top of that, Warren Buffett made a 10-year bet that he would make one single purchase in an index fund and he is going to outperform hedge funds. Think about that. The average hedge fund return was 22% in this time frame. The index fund did 85%. He totally crushed the index funds. Warren Buffett could have went into a coma for 9 years, did nothing, woke up from the coma, and beat the vast majority of hedge funds. He actually beat every single hedge fund. Every single hedge fund underperformed what the index did. Just really think about that. Like, if you have the opportunity to beat Warren Buffett's returns, think about how famous you would be. You're going to be the guy that goes on CNBC. You're going to be like, "Oh my God, the man that beat Warren Buffett in a 10-year period." You're going to be so famous, so rich. You're going to have this new hedge fund that you start. You're going to bring in all this money under management. You're going to charge these high fees. Everybody wants to do that. But the chart that I just showed you, it proves nobody beat Warren Buffett in that 10-year period. The retail investors don't beat him. The institutional investors don't meet him. And on top of that, I have another really good chart that I want to show you about retail investors. This is called the Robinhood Investor Index. It's straight off their website. You could go look this up if you want. Just Google it. And this basically shows you how the Robinhooders do versus what the NASDAQ does. So this, to be very clear, this is not what the actual Robinhood stock is doing. This is what the Robinhood investors, like Robinhood investor accounts, are doing on a cumulative return basis. So how are they just doing on a percentage basis, on an ROI basis? So you can see that if we start in January of 2020 to right now, the NASDAQ largely outperforms what the typical Robinhooders are doing. NASDAQ is blue, Robinhooders are the green and black line right here. But why is that? Well, it's just simply because retail investors they have this stuff all backwards, to be honest with you. It's just like, it's crazy what's going on. And don't forget, I'm going to show you the system, literally 3 trades to put you to not only like match the S&P 500 or the NASDAQ. I'm not going to just say to go buy the NASDAQ or buy the S&P. I'm going to show you 3 trades that will beat the market with an extremely high degree of certainty. But we have to talk about this first. Why do the Robinhooders screw it up so bad? So as the market is going higher, the typical Robinhood investors usually do well because they go to their day jobs and they say, "Hey, Jimmy from work said that I should go buy call options on this company. Then it's going up. Now I'm a genius. Then it goes up more and I'm right. Then it goes up more. This is when I should leverage and go margin because it's just going to go straight up and never go down." So they're very leveraged out and they're very emotional up here. They're basically just like refreshing their accounts 400 times a day saying, "Oh my God, look how much money I'm making." But then when the top blows off, those Robinhood investors that bought up here typically get crushed on the way down because they're just way over leveraged up here. So they get margin calls, they get wiped out, they close out all their positions down here at a loss at the exact wrong time. The market is falling, the market is cheaper, the market is getting safer. You do not want to close your stuff out down here. You want to buy more down here. You actually want to sell up here and you want to buy down here, of course. You want to sell high and you want to buy low. We get it. But most Robinhood investors and most retail investors and even most institutional investors, they buy high and they sell low. Also, don't forget on that Warren Buffett bet. That bet started in 2007, right before the great financial crisis where the S&P fell 50%. If those hedge funds were so good, they have access to basically unlimited information. Why did they not just simply know that the crash was going to come, put all their money on the sidelines, wait for the crash to come, and then invest in the bottom? Why did they not do that? Because they simply don't know. It's so hard to predict short-term market movements. But back to this chart right here, I just wanted to throw that part in. So as a typical Robinhood investor is getting margin called, getting wiped out, they're saying, I hate the stock market, I'm never going to do this again. The NASDAQ only went down peak to trough this much. The Robinhood index went down from here to here, way more, like pretty much a double of the dip, the double dip percentage, I guess we could call it, versus the NASDAQ. So you could see the NASDAQ rebounded pretty sharply off of this dip right here, but it doesn't seem like the Robinhood Investor Index really did anything until like right here is when it started to go up a little bit. And that's because it took retail investors a little bit of time to forget about all their losses, to kind of get over it, I guess, and say, okay, I'm going to try the stock market again. So the market goes up a little bit, they start to buy in, they get a little bit of a dip for Liberation Day, they buy more, and they're like, oh my God, I need to start YOLOing this top right now. The market's going up, I don't want to miss out, this is my chance to make millions of dollars. What color Lamborghini am I going to get? And you can see we have a little bit of volatility in the market right now. Market went down a little bit right here, but you can see the Robinhooders, they went down over double this dip right here. So call this like a 5% dip in the market. They're probably down close to 15% right here. So that right there is just a very high level overview of what the Robinhooders do, what they think, why they underperform, and just really understand that if you would have just bought right here on the NASDAQ and did nothing, you would have outperformed all their cover calls, all their poor man cover calls, all their cash secured puts, all their whatever option strategy they do. You would have outperformed all of them, and you could have went into a coma for 5 years and literally did nothing. You could have done nothing. More money with less work. Who doesn't want to do that? That's what I want to do. I want to get the least amount of risk, the most amount of ROI with the least amount of work. That's the name of the game right here. But unfortunately for most investors, especially retail investors, they just think like, well, I have a day job. The more I work in my day job, the more hours that I work, the more money that I make. They just have that correlation in their brains of the harder I work, the more money I make. And they carry that over to the investing field, and that's a huge problem. The problem is investing takes time. It's literally just about buying good companies at a good price and being patient. So before I go on a tangent even longer than right now, I'm going to cut myself off, and I want to show you this chart right here. This chart is going to show you kind of like how I'm going to plan this bet right here. How I'm going to make 3 trades, and I'm going to outperform what the S&P 500 does in a 10-year period with a very, very high degree of certainty. Follow me on this one. It's so simple. It's so easy. You're going to be like, what the heck? And before I tell you that, understand 90% of people are not going to beat the S&P. So simply buying the S&P makes you better than 90% of people that put you into the 10% bucket. Understand that. If I said right now, before I even told you the system, if you could beat 90% of investors out there, would you do it? And you would say, yeah, probably. And if I would say, okay, just go buy VOO or the S&P 500 or SPY, you wouldn't want to do it because you feel like more work equals more money. You don't have the patience to just sit there and dollar cost average into the index and do good. You won't do that. So that's fine. If you want to make a couple trades, we're going to make 3 trades in a 10-year period to not match the index, but to beat the index with a high degree of certainty. All right, let's dive in. So as you guys know from my previous videos, the earnings per share growth line is the hands down number one thing that moves the price of a stock in the long term. It's not the Fibonacci, it's not the Bollinger Bands, it's not the RSI, it's not the whatever chart pattern you look at. Trust me, I do a lot of technical analysis. Technical analysis is not going to help you beat the stock market in the long term. Short term, it might help you a little bit, but it's probably just gambling. You're probably just getting lucky if you're making money in the short term. So, earnings per share growth, profits, that is what moves stocks in the long term. You can see the S&P is this lighter line right here. The darker line is the earnings per share growth. So you can see that the market goes a little bit above it, a little bit below it, a little bit above, below, above, whatever, you get it. This line is basically just like a rubber band, and the market just bounces within range of it. The more the market gets kind of like stretched above it, the more the market's going to rebound back to that earnings per share growth line. Down here, the market was kind of like stretched down. The market was a little bit cheap right here. So the market wants to rebound back up. It just looks like it kind of rebounded up too much. And now we have this little discrepancy right here where the market might be overvalued right now. So you get that, all good. So here's what I'm going to do to beat the S&P 500 in a 10-year period. This chart is 10 years, by the way. And I know that we're looking backwards on this chart, but human nature doesn't change. Market crashes and corrections don't change. Market pumps don't change. It's just simply rhyming with itself. It's just history doesn't repeat exactly, but it rhymes. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to assume is that I'm starting a $1 million account. 1 million is going to go into the S&P 500. That is the market, and that's what I have to beat. My account, I'm going to start it with $1 million also too. So 1 million in the S&P, you do nothing for 10 years. I have to beat that. And again, 90% of investors are not simply going to beat that single investment. One investment in 10 years, they're not going to beat that. But here's what I'm going to do. I am also going to put my $1 million in the S&P 500. But wait, there's two more trades that I have to make. $1 million is going to go in the S&P 500, and technically I'm going to underperform by just a little bit because VOO has an expense ratio of 0.04. So technically, if we're going to get complicated here, I'm going to underperform by a tiny bit. But that's all good. There's no problem with that. So here's what I'm going to do. In that 10-year period, I'm going to crawl into a cave. Remember, my life is depending on this, so I'm not trying to beat the market by 20% or anything. I just have to beat the market by a little bit. So I'm going to be very, very patient. I'm going to crawl into a cave and I'm going to wait and I'm going to stock the stock market. I'm going to understand all the fundamentals, all the technicals, all the macro, all the micro, what's going on with companies, what's going on with valuations. And eventually in a 10-year period, there's going to be a shock. I don't know what the exact shock is going to be. Maybe we go to World War III. Maybe valuations get too high and we have an AI bubble. Maybe we have a trade war. Maybe we have a new president that goes crazy. Who knows what's actually going to happen? But in a 10-year period, there's a lot of bad things that happen in a 10-year period. Right here we had COVID. Right here we had interest rates go way up to try to bring down inflation that was at 9%. Right here we had Liberation Day tariffs. That's just three, bad things that happened in the last, call it 6 or 7 years. I didn't even cover anything over here. So I'm going to wait for the stock market to go on sale. I'm going to wait for people to panic. I'm going to wait for people to freak out and want to sell their stocks. And when the market gets cheap and compelling, the S&P 500, right here, the market's below the earnings per share growth line. A time like this in the future, I am going to sell $50,000 worth of portfolio secured puts, not cash secured puts, portfolio secured puts. Remember down here on the bottom left, I said I'm going to take my $1 million and buy VOO. That's just the S&P 500 ETF that I'm going to buy. So my $1 million is 100% invested. I have no cash in this account whatsoever. So when the market is cheap, when it's compelling, maybe right here I won't do anything, maybe COVID I would deploy right here, maybe down here I would deploy. And I'm not even saying I have to deploy right on the bottom. I don't know exactly where the bottom's going to be, but you don't have to know where the bottom's going to be. You just have to know that it's, largely undervalued the market. So I'm going to sell, we'll say right here I time it, we'll just say on this tip right here, not perfectly on the bottom. We'll say right here I sell $50,000 worth of puts, portfolio secured, not cash secured, and I do a 2-year expiration date. So this is 2022. We're just going to run out to just call it 2024, somewhere in this time frame over here. So if we go to the left, we could see the S&P is somewhere around 41.14. So I'm going to sell 2-year puts, portfolio secured, collect $50K in cash, and then I'm going to reinvest that cash. On top of that, we'll talk about the strike price here really quick, I guess. Strike price, I'm just going to go a little bit below the money. I feel like the market's already cheap. I feel like the market's going to go up and rebound back to the earnings per share growth line in the future. I think the earnings per share growth line is going to grow, obviously, and I think that the market is below it. So there's two tailwinds of market is cheap fundamentally, and fundamentals are improving at the same time. So the market has two big tailwinds to go back up to that earnings per share growth line or even above it. So when the market's cheap, collect $50K right here. That's trade number 2. I bought the shares down here for $1 million. I sold the $50K put right here for trade number 2. And then the third thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the $50K while the market is cheap and take the $50K and go buy more shares of the S&P 500 of VOO. That is trade number 3. So what's going to happen 99 out of 100 times is this right here. I got in at a good price. I got in when the market was cheap. I got in when everybody wanted to buy put options because the market's going down. So when the sentiment is terrible and everyone's freaking out and everybody wants to buy puts, I'm going to sell them those puts for top dollar secured by my portfolio. I'm collecting 0 in margin interest. I am not paying a penny in margin interest. None. This is portfolio secured. It's like getting a free HELOC on your house, essentially. So I reinvest that money back into the S&P 500 shares. We get that. And then I do nothing. I be patient. And as earnings per share grows right here, And as the sentiment flips, the market's eventually going to rebound with time. And when the market rebounds with time, those sold puts that I sold, like we'll just say I chose an expiration date somewhere around right here on the tip of my cursor, and then up down right here corresponds to the strike price. So my strike price will be somewhere around where my cursor is, strike price and expiration date. I'm down here where I have to buy shares of the S&P, but the S&P is all the way up here. So those contracts that I sold, those sold puts are going to expire worthless. They're going to expire worthless. And I'm just going to collect the 50K and reinvest it. So very, very simply speaking, I sold 50K of puts in a 10-year period. If we just divide 50K divided by that $1 million account, that equals an extra 5% ROI. Very simple numbers right here. An extra 5% ROI. Divide 5% ROI by 10 years, I beat the market by roughly 0.5%. I'm actually going to beat it by more because those 50K worth of shares I buy are going to appreciate right here. But that right there is how you not only be better than 90% of investors, but I made a total of 3 trades in 10 years. I was patient. I waited for the right time to strike. And I not only averaged what the market did, I beat what the market did by roughly 0.5%. Again, it's only 0.5%. I get it. I could sell 100K worth of puts instead and beat it by 1% if I wanted to. But this is what I would do if my life depended on it. If I had to literally just beat the market by a little bit, be better than 90% of people, like probably better than 95% of people, to be honest with you. That is exactly what I would do right there. And just think about it. While all the typical retail investors are trying to day trade and predict all this volatility and all these dips with short duration options and not short duration holding shares, I guess, you're just treading water. And we showed that right here on the Robinhood Investor Index. You did not beat the Nasdaq. You could have just bought the Nasdaq here and did nothing, but you did all these crazy trades through this whole time frame, and you didn't even beat the Nasdaq. Now I'm going to cover one last thing, and then I'm going to wrap this video up, because some people are going to say, "Oh, well, Brandon, well, what if the market doesn't rebound?" Listen, if the S&P 500 doesn't rebound with time, we have bigger problems than money at that. But let's just say maybe it doesn't take 2 years to rebound. Maybe it takes 4 years to rebound. Like, look at the tip of my cursor. Remember, my strike and expiration date would be somewhere around here. The market's all the way up here. But let's just say the market just went like this and then just kept going down. All you would have to do if you wanted to buy yourself more time is you could roll option contracts down and out. So I have a 2-year expiration date from initial to right here. I could buy myself more time and go down a little bit more on the strike price. And in the background, earnings per share is likely going up and to the right. So the more time that I buy myself, the more likely the share price is to rebound back to the earnings per share growth line, which is just like a magnet. It's just like a rubber band that pulls the market to it on the upside and the downside. The longer I give this, the more likely I am going to be to make money. So again, 3 trades beats 90% of investors in the long term. That's all you got to do. If you knew that you could beat 90% of investors in the long term, would you do it? Yeah, but when you realize it requires doing really nothing, most people don't want to do it because they want to feel like they're doing something. They want to make trades and feel smart. But that is not how investing works. So, hope you got value from this video. If you want to watch a really good video more about how I go into stock options and my exact strategy, watch this video right here. It's going to change your life. How you do all of stock options. And I also made a bunch of recent videos for cash secured puts, covered calls, spreads, and stuff like that. You have to go watch that. I debunk all that stuff and why it sucks. With that being said, I will see you guys there.